It returned, and then it returned again in 3D. And well, it has returned once again. Donkey Kong Country's returns marked a pretty interesting time for the Donkey Kong series. What makes this game so special, you may ask? Well, it was the return to 2D Donkey Kong. Well, you did have Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, but does anybody even remember that game? Donkey Kong Country's returns revitalized Donkey Kong, and oh boy, we did not expect to see what would come next after this game. I think it's nice to look back at Country's returns and see what it did for the Donkey Kong series. I remember playing this game back on the 3DS, but of course being the idiot that I was, I sold it. Luckily enough, we were getting an HD version of it for the Nintendo Switch. And well, I played it, I bought it, and what do I think of this game? Well, it holds up very well. It's not bad. It is still pretty good to this day, when it released up to now. But the real question to ask, is this a good port? Is it worth $60? Well, we're gonna be getting into all of that right now. Not really, to be honest. Now, there are a few positives that I can give to this port, but it's only mainly two. If you did not like the controls of the Wii original, guess what? They made the controls good in this version. And they did add a modern mode, which is basically an easy mode. If you're not good at this game, you can use the easy mode. They did update the visuals, which, oh boy, I have some stuff to say about the visuals. Overall, I would just say this is a very mediocre port. Maybe even one of the worst Nintendo ports ever, to be honest. They couldn't be bothered to add any new levels. They couldn't do a Funky Kong mode thing where there's a new playable character. I will say that Tropical Freeze on Switch is not really worth the $60 either, but hey, you get a new character, and I'll be a little bit nicer to that game. Why? Because Wii U. This is the best way you can play this game, but it has one little fatal problem. This game is visually scuffed somehow. For some reason, the visuals are kinda bad. As you're playing, it might not even be something you noticed, and honestly, it was something I didn't really pay attention to because I wanted to play the game. But when this game was getting marketed, people were pointing out the various visual problems with it. Something I learned about this game is that it was made by Forever Entertainment, and they used Unity to remaster this game, which could kind of explain why this game looks visually bad in a few areas. I could go into all the little visual problems the game does have, but I'm not really gonna bother with it. But it is kind of baffling to see this game have these issues, and I'm starting to get the vibe this game is partially unfinished. If you don't want to fork over $60, go find the 3DS version or the Wii original. You'll probably even get it for cheaper too. Finally, I can now talk about the gameplay, and the gameplay in this game is still pretty good to this day. You'll be going across 8 different worlds in this game, going through levels and fighting bosses. So off the bat, Donkey Kong controls very well in this game. I have no complaints with him. His movements and abilities feel good to use. That's what I can say about him. Diddy Kong is also here, and he's only able to do one thing, but let me tell you, it is useful. Diddy Kong can help you fly over gaps that you wouldn't be able to reach, so that's useful. Overall, it's still a very well-controlling game. So if you're not familiar with the Donkey Kong series, you would know that this series plays a bit differently from your traditional 2D platformer. You are going to want to know the ins and outs of these levels and learn how they work. And if you feel like 100% completing this game, there are collectibles, which I didn't really bother with, to be honest. And there are these stupid little white petals in each level, but I don't really care. If you do not know the ins and outs of these levels, guess what? You are gonna fail. But here's the thing about that. I actually like failing. I actually want to try to get better at these levels. For how much I fail, I want to complete them as best as I can. And I'd say for the time, this might have been a breath of fresh air for the 2D genre. Not many 2D games from Nintendo aren't really all that hard. Not every single video game needs to be hard, but with this series, it makes it stand out in its own unique way. Yes, this game is hard, but it isn't too hard. Like, you are able to get through it, but it is definitely challenging when it needs to get challenging. This game could definitely be really, and I mean really unfair sometimes, but sometimes it also isn't unfair. You just gotta learn how the level design works in this game, and especially the controls too. It's all about timing. You're gonna have to time your movements. I think the level design still holds up pretty well. There is sometimes that one bullcrap level in there, but it's not bad. The level designers definitely had an idea of what they wanted to accomplish. And there are actually some pretty creative levels in here if you look deep enough. A few examples consist of this one level where there's this water tide hide in your way, and you have to hide behind these rocks and avoid the enemies. You'll have this level where you have to change these blue and red switches, which I didn't complete, but I think it's a cool idea for a level. And there are a lot more examples of these. Sometimes this game will have the curveball levels thrown in here. Sometimes you'll have a Rambly level thrown in there, and it feels like he's sorta underutilized in this game, especially in the sequel. You have the minecart levels, which are actually kind of fun. I just unfortunately suck at a few of them. But my least favorite levels in this game would have to be the ones where you fly around on a barrel. Now, the idea of this is definitely not bad, but here's my problem. If you hit into something, you are screwed. You have 2 hearts on screen, but it doesn't matter. You're screwed. Maybe this was a problem in the original version, or it's just something they didn't feel like updating, but they definitely should have. I just kinda hate these type of levels because of it. Really, that's all I have to say about the gameplay in this game. It still holds up as well as I remember with some creative levels in there, and sometimes a bit of bullcrap. Okay, I don't dislike the boss fights, but they suffer from one issue. They feel kinda undercooked. Now, I do like the ideas for some of the boss fights. I really like the Colonel Plux one. I definitely like what that fight tries to accomplish, but as for some of the other ones, they feel weirdly underwhelming. The only way you can fix the boss fights is by making them longer. By doing that, they'll feel a bit more challenging. But that's just how I personally feel. The boss fights are definitely not bad or anything. They just needed to be pushed a little bit more. So, the music. Donkey Kong music isn't known to be bad, so with this game, it's not bad. There are some knee slappers in there. Here are a few to listen to. Some of those could just carry the spirit of somebody. So that is everything I have to say about Donkey Kong Country's Returns. Overall, it's still a pretty good game, and I'm glad I got to replay it, but as a port, it is very mediocre. They really could have put a lot more effort into this, but they just didn't, so that sucks, I guess. Let me know what you think of Donkey Kong Country's Returns, and I'll see you guys next time, and bye.